Hey, and welcome to the first video of the tutorial series. In this video, we're not really going to be doing much. We're just going to be setting up the PDA, the game instance, the blueprint structures, the PP save game, and then a couple of folders for the purpose of organizing things so you know what goes where. Let's get into it. We are going to create the folders. So in the content, before I get started, I just want to say that I will be carrying on from the previous project that we created in the import export two-part videos. I'll leave a link to those in the description. Please go check those out because based on that new method of importing the vehicle is what this tutorial series will be based on. So I would highly recommend that you'll go and watch that. And there's also a couple of things I did in that video that I'm not going to be doing again, which is setting up the game mode, the play controller, and the inputs. So if you want to know how to do that, it's also in those videos. In the content folder, we are going to create a couple more folders. We already have one of the folders, which is the maps folder. So in the maps folder, we're just going to create a couple more things. This is where the tutorial level is. So in here, we are going to create a new folder, and then here we're going to call it dealership. We're going to create another folder. We're going to call this one main menu. Another folder, we're going to call this workshop, and then another one, and this one is going to be open world. And then the last folder, we're going to call this the garage, and then those are going to be all the levels that are going to be used in the tutorial series. And then back to our content folder, and then we're going to create another folder in here. We're going to call this widgets, and then in the widgets we're going to do the same thing because we're going to create the folders again: main menu, dealership, garage, workshop, open world, and then the final one we are going to make here is the minimap. Now, although the minimap does exist in the open world, I just want to keep it separate just for the sake of organizing, so that if there is, for example, something that goes wrong, then you can just go into the folder instead of trying to look through all the widgets. And then we already have the vehicles folder. So this is gonna be, okay, we're gonna treat this one as the parent class vehicle. So we're gonna create a folder. In the folder, I'm gonna call this parent vehicle. And then we're gonna take all the blueprints and then we're gonna move them all into here so that we know that this is the parent. This is gonna be used as the driving blueprint. So all other blueprints, all vehicle blueprints will be based off this vehicle, and then that blueprint will be the one that contains all the code that will come later on. Back to the content folder, we already have the input, we have the widgets, the maps. Then you want to create the blueprints folder. So this is where all the blueprints are going to be, well, any blueprints that don't fit into any of the other folders. And then in here, in the blueprints folder, we're going to create another one, and then I'm going to call this one blueprint underscore structures. So the blueprint structures are going to go in there. And then in here, I think we should put the game mode and player controller because they are blueprints. So we're just going to move those over there. We're also going to put all the other game modes and player controllers in here as well. If you want to further organize, you can have a folder for all the game modes, and you can have a folder for all the player controllers, because there's going to be a game mode and player controller for every single one of the levels. And then that's it for the folders. We're going to go into the blueprint structure, and then in the blueprint structure we're going to right click, and it was a blueprint structure, and then the first one is going to be BPS underscore vehicles. So this is going to be the blueprint structure. It's going to contain all the information for all the vehicles. And then we're going to create another blueprint structure, and then this one's going to be BPS underscore wheels. And then this is going to be the one that contains all the information for the wheels. We're going to open up the BPS wheels, just dock this at the top, open up the BPS vehicles, and then we're going to go back into the blueprints again. Then we're going to right click, blueprint class, and then we're going to look for save game, create a save game. We're going to call this BP underscore save game, and then we're going to open up this as well. And back. And then in the blueprint structure, we're actually just going to add the PDA here as well. So we're going to go blueprints class, and then it's primary data asset. So I'm going to create that one. And then this one is going to be called PDA underscore vehicles. So the PDA is going to be used to contain any information about the cars that doesn't change. So there would be something like information that's going to be used in a dealership, such as the car's torque, what type of engine the car has, the range at which the car has its maximum torque available at, the RPM range, the price of the car, and any other information that you might want to add. So we're going to open up this one as well. And then in the blueprints, we're going to right click, head over to blueprint class, and then the one we're going to look for is game instance. So I'm going to create a game instance. I'm going to call this bpgi underscore game. And then we're going to open up this as well. And then I think that's everything that we need to create. Okay, now we're going to fill in the information. We're going to start with the game instance first and foremost. So in here, we're going to create two functions. This one's going to be called load garage cars. This is we're going to load the BPS. The second blueprint structure, we'll go into that a little bit later. And then the other one is going to be called load blueprint structure. So we're going to be loading in two separate blueprint structures. The one is going to be the main blueprint structure, the one that contains all the vehicles, just all the vehicles. And then the garage car blueprint structure is going to be the one that contains all the cars that the player owns. So any cars that you've bought will be transferred from the main blueprint structure over to the garage cars blueprint structure. And we need to load these two structures only once, and that will be at the beginning of the game. So every time the player launches the game, then we need to load in the blueprint structure so we know, okay, what are all the cars, and then we can compare the cars that the player owns to all the cars, and then we can determine like, okay, cool, the player has 5 out of 25 cars, for example. And then also the dealership, we also need to load that because the dealership cars are going to be based on the main blueprint structure, and then the garage cars will be based on the garage cars blueprint structure. We'll create this in another video, just setting up everything now. And then the variables, the first variable is going to be the money variable, and then this is going to be an integer. The next variable is going to be the BPS vehicles, and this one is going to be BPS, BPS vehicles, and this one is going to be of type array. And then the next one is going to be BPS garage cars. It's going to be the exact same because the garage cars blueprint structure is going to be filled with information from the main blueprint structure, so they need to be of the same type to make them compatible. And then we're going to add more variables. This one is going to be the BP save game. This one is going to be BP saving object reference single. And then the next one is going to be workshop with a question mark, and then this is going to be a boolean. The next one is going to be another one called open world, also with a question mark, also of type boolean. And then the next one is vehicle ID. This is going to be an integer. And then the last one is going to be wheel ID, and there's also going to be an integer. So the workshop and open world variables, the workshop is going to be used for any time when you move between the workshop and the dealership when you're in the main world. So the open world, so if you go from the open world to the workshop, then we're going to use that for a particular purpose. Same for when you go to the dealership, it's also going to be used for the same purpose. And then the open world variable over here, that one is going to be used for races. So it's going to let the code know when the player is and is not currently in a race, because you don't want all information to be available at all times. And then the vehicle ID is going to be the one that's going to be used in the garage cars to let the blueprint know which car the player currently has selected for the purpose of customizing the car. And then the wheel ID is going to be used to load in the wheels that the player selected when they customize the car. So from the list of wheels that you have determined the player has access to on a particular car. The wheel ID will then be used to tell the blueprint structure which set of wheels to load with the blueprint. That is everything for the game instance. So we're going to compile, save. Then we're going to head over to the main level. We're going to go over to edit, project settings. And then here we need to specify the game instance. I think it should be, actually I'm just going to look for it, game instance. And then I think it should be game instance class. I'm gonna select this one, and then we're gonna set the BPGI game, and then that's gonna be it. So we just need to make sure that the engine knows which game instance we're gonna be using, and then we're gonna close that, and then game instance we'll revisit it later on when we're adding the code. So we're gonna close that, and then in the PDA we're also gonna be adding variables. So the first variable is gonna be max torque. This is going to be of type float. Next variable is going to be engine. This is going to be a text. The next variable is going to be max torque range. This is also going to be a text. And then the next one is going to be the price of the car. This is of type integer. The next one I'm going to be adding is the curb weight of the car. This is also of type integer. Next one is going to be transmission. All of this is simply just to let the player know any relevant information about the car when they want to purchase the car. So the transmission is going to be of type text. And then the next variable is the vehicle name. And this is also of type text. The next one is the drivetrain. The drivetrain is just letting you know, is it a front wheel drive, all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive car. And then the last one is the top speed. For me, this is more so if you have to specify, it's going to be a theoretical top speed of the car. So it's going to be based on the car's gear ratio. So whatever the car's gears can mechanically push the car towards, that will be the top speed that I will specify for my intended purposes. There will be no electronical governing of the top speed. So if the gear ratio says the car can go 400 kilometers, then that will be what I will put down as the top speed. And then that's it for the PDA. We're gonna close that. And then in the save game, so the first variable we're adding is the best race time. This is type float. And then we're gonna create another one. This is the best lap time, also type float. The next one is going to be money. This is of type integer. The next one is gonna be the vehicle ID. After that, it's the wheel ID. And then the next one is going to be best drift score. This is of type float. After that, we're gonna make one called counter steer. This is also of type float. After that, we're gonna create one called vehicle porn. This is gonna be of type porn. Class reference. After that, we're gonna create another one. This one is gonna be BPS vehicles. This one is going to be of type BPS vehicles, also an array, and then again same one, but it's going to call BPS garage cars. And then after that, we're going to create one called auto question mark. This is going to be for the transmission. This is of type boolean single, so this is going to be the determining factor to tell the code whether the player is currently using the automatic transmission or if they're going for the manual option. And then the last one is gonna be units. So this is to let the code know, is the player choosing mph or kilometers an hour. And then it's also boolean of type single, and then compile and save. That's it for now. If there's anything that needs to be added, we'll come back and add more. We're gonna do the wheels first because there's actually quite a lot of variables that goes into the BPS vehicles. So for the wheels, the first variable is going to be wheel color. This is of type linear color single. Then we're gonna add variable to the top, add variable. The next variable is going to be name. So the name of the wheel. This is gonna be of type text. If you don't want to add the name, you can add a image. So if you want to use an image instead, you would use image, and then you would name it here image, and then here you would look for texture 2D object reference. So that's what it would look like if you want to use the image instead of the wheel name. And then the next one is, we're gonna rename this. The next one is front wheels, and this is gonna be of type skeletal mesh object reference. The next one is going to be the rear wheels, also of type skeletal mesh. And then the last one is the glass level, and this is of type float. And then that's everything for the PPS wheels. Save, close that. Now we get to PPS cars, and this is gonna be a really long list of variables. First, we're starting off with data asset. This is the PDA vehicles object reference. Next variable is the body color. This is of type linear color. Next variable is the gloss level. This is of type float. Then we have the tone, also float. And then we have the shade, also float. Next we're gonna have the torque, also float. After that we have the front brakes, also float. Then we're gonna have the rear brakes, also float value. Then we're gonna have the front tires, also float value. Then the rear tires, also float value. Then we're gonna set up the power as 1. This is of type boolean. Then we're gonna have power as 2. So this is for the upgrade stages. And then we're gonna have power as 3. Next we're gonna have brakes as 1, brakes as 2, brakes as 3. Then we're gonna have tires, the same, tires as 1, tires as 2, and tires as 3, all of type boolean. Next one is going to be the current RPM. This is going to be of type float. Next one is going to be the idle RPM of type float. The next one is going to be the max RPM, also float. Then the next one is going to be the shift up RPM, also float. After that is the shift down RPM, also float. So the current, idle, max, shift up and shift down RPMs, all of these correspond to the transmission. If you're not gonna make your own transmission and rather just gonna use the transmission that comes with the chaos system, then there's not gonna be a need for you to create these variables. But if you do want to create your own transmission following along with this process, then you are gonna need these variables. The next one we're gonna create is the variable purchased. This is of type boolean, so this is going to be used when purchasing the vehicles to let the code know whether the player does or does not have the vehicle, which makes it so that the player can or cannot purchase that particular car. So if you don't own the car, then you cannot purchase the car, but if you do own it, then we'll create a widget that lets the player know that no, they already have purchased the car and they already have it in their garage. And then the next one is going to be FWD. This is going to be of type boolean. The next one is going to be RWD, and the last one is going to be AWD. So these for front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, all-wheel drive is going to be used for the smoke, so that we can tell the code where to generate the smoke for each car. Whether it should come from the front wheels because it's a front wheel drive car, from the rear wheels because it's a rear wheel drive car, or it should come from all the wheels because it's an all-wheel drive car. And then the next variable is gonna be max gears. So yet again, this is for the transmission. This is gonna be of type integer. This just lets us know how many gears the current car that the player has selected has, so that we know our range. Does the car have 5 gears, 4 gears, 6 gears, 8 gears, so that we don't go beyond the amount of gears the car has when we hit the change up RPM. And then the next one is going to be the display mesh. this is going to be of type skeletal mesh object reference. So this is going to be used in the dealership. The car in its default state and customized, it's going to be a skeletal mesh. And then after that we have the pawn, and then this is going to be of type pawn. It's going to be a class reference, and then this is going to be used everywhere else: the main menu, the workshop, the garage, the open world, so that the player can see what options what changes they've made to the car. And then the next one is going to be the wheel save, and then this is going to be of type string. So this is going to be used in conjunction with the wheel ID, because we need to save the integer value, because it needs to be used every time when the blueprint for the selected car is used, so that we know, okay, it's car, say it's for example the third car in the garage blueprint structure, in the garage car's blueprint structure, and then within that car we have the second set of wheels currently selected to load in with the car. And then the last one is gonna be the BPS wheels, and then this is gonna be of type BPS wheels, and it's gonna be an array, and then that's it for the blueprint structures. And that brings us to the end of this video. Just gonna save everything, make sure everything is saved. So then that's it for this video. In the next video, it's gonna be more of a extra video or a half video. There we're gonna be creating the levels, and I'm also gonna explain what world partition is. And that's pretty much it for now, and until the next video.